Everyone does their best within the limits of their current awareness.
I've dealt with a lot of judgment in my life, and it's me judging others and me judging myself. When you look inward, you can see that yourself, you were doing the best you could your whole life with what you knew at the time. And so, yeah, that to me just makes it double-edged, razor sharp, just cut right through all the judgment. Like you said, everyone's doing the best they can within the limits of their awareness. And when you couple that with, you can't be held accountable for that which you're oblivious, it's kind of the opposite side of that coin, is that there's this edge of knowing that we sort of operate at. And we meet the world from that perspective, from that ego space.
I also realized for myself a little while ago when I was trying to process judgment, like, why am I so judgy about people? Why am I judging this? Why am I judging that? Can I just accept that? And I realized later that I was actually crashing my own energy, all nullified by the judgment.
If we look like, oh, I just judged that person. And if you pause for a minute and say, okay, where is that in me? Because if it wasn't there, we wouldn't even see it out there if it wasn't in here, because we don't see anything out there that it's not in here already.
It really comes to the unity, right? The unitive force that's connecting us all, right? When you realize that that's the kind of underlying, the net that's been holding you in your entire life, you can more easily let go of some of these things.
The more awareness that we have of resistance points, the more those points serve as guides to us.
Love feels invisible in the presence of judgment. But to be present with the awareness of judgment has the potential to reveal love. Hello, curious minds and beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Awake and Aware podcast. In today's episode, Tammy and I are going to interview our dear friend, Matthew Sean Alexander, and we're going to talk about how to dissolve judgment from your life and allow the essence of you, that is your soul, to come alive again. So please help me welcome Tammy and Matthew Sean. Welcome back to our another Awake and Aware podcast session. Today I have the privilege and opportunity to join again with Tammy, and then we are going to have our first guest, Matthew Sean Alexander, join us in today's discussion about how to dissolve judgment. And I'm sure none of you have ever experienced judgment because you are all perfect. And so we really have nothing to talk about, but let's get to it anyway. And for those of you, myself included, who have struggled or do sometimes struggle with judgment, let's see what we can do with that. All right. Tammy, thank you for being here again. And Matthew Sean,
thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And Matthew Sean is the ego engineer and founder of Expansive Explorations. After leading global supply chain transformation projects and systems optimizations across industries, he now guides high-performing professionals to re-architect their inner systems for greater clarity, confidence, and creative power. His method blends engineering logic, nervous system science, quantum awareness, and transformational coaching to help his clients to break free from old loops and realign with their true nature. He is known for making invisible patterns visible and offering practical structure for lasting change. I love that introduction, Matthew Sean. Thank you for providing that. And firstly, the ego engineer. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, my background is actually in chemical engineering. And when I was trying to come up with, how I would sort of describe what I do in my coaching practice, I wanted to lean on that engineering roots and the structure and that kind of solid foundation, while at the same time realizing that what we're really doing is transforming our perspective, transforming the way we see things. And some people have equated that to the ego as the perceiving self or the interpreter. The way that we operate in the world is through the ego. Yeah, and so I just like the way that, and I'm also a big fan of alliteration, so I was like, oh, let's just put these two together and go with that.
Yeah. Sounds beautiful. Yeah. So, to the audience out there, so Matthew Schoen is our book club buddy, and we have these quotes that we all choose, and he has been able to hold this one quote throughout the last, I think, 6 months or something like that, to talk about. And first of, it just like intrigued me because we are all switching quotes and coming up with something new every time, but he's like with it every single time. And so
Mhm.
I was like, okay, so what is this guy doing exactly? Like, why is that so important? So my first question to you would be, what exactly spoke to you about that favorite quote of yours, which I will say also is everyone does their best within the limits of their current awareness.
Yeah.
So what exactly spoke to you about this quote?
The reason that I'm like using it every time that we're, talking about the quotes is that it's been so transformational for me to realize that, like you said, everyone's doing the best they can within the limits of their awareness. And when you couple that with, you can't be held accountable for that which you're oblivious, it's kind of the opposite side of that coin,
Hmm.
is that
Mhm.
there's this edge of knowing that we sort of operate at. And we meet the world from that perspective, from that ego space, right?
Hmm.
And we can, through multiple different modalities and multiple different pathways, come to a space where we're increasing that awareness. We're enhancing it, we're changing its shape, we're engineering it to be a, more holistic view. And in doing so, it allows us to, be better in a sense, as in to fulfill on more what we're here to fulfill on. Let's put it that way. I don't want to give
Mhm.
Hmm.
away too much in the early part of
Mhm.
this
Mhm.
discussion,
No,
but
give away whatever you got, man.
well, no, well, I'm just saying that that's
Yeah.
sort of the crux of it, and the fact that
Mhm.
you can look back, or I can look back on my life and just being like, okay, well, the reason that you can use it in so many different scenarios, like somebody cuts you off in traffic, and
Yeah.
you're like, what the heck? But it's like you have no
Mhm.
idea what's going on with them. You have
Hmm.
no
Mhm.
awareness whatsoever of why they're doing that.
Hmm.
Maybe they're a bad driver. Or maybe their wife's giving birth in the hospital and they're trying to get there to see, it's a beautiful, creation coming out into this world and celebrate. So, I mean, we could be clapping, hey, cut me off, right? Whatever. You have no idea. And so, that's how it extends to other people. And then when you look inward, you can see that yourself, you were doing the best you could
Hmm.
your whole life with what you knew at the time. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, that to me just makes it double-edged, razor sharp, just cut right through all the judgment. So, yeah, I guess the
Mhm.
I
podcast's over. You just use that. And
Yeah, no, no. I love that because again, this is what I wanted to speak to because the quote that you're using of Peter Crown's is pointing completely towards dropping any and all the judgment, obviously, because if everybody is doing their best within their current limit of awareness or their current awareness in the limit of their behavior, whatever they are able to do and able to see, then I mean we could judge them, but how is it helpful again? And plus of the fact that I also realized for myself a little while ago when I was trying to process judgment, like, why am I so judgy about people? Why am I judging this? Why am I judging that? Can I just like accept that?
Mhm.
And I realized later that I was actually crashing my own energy by the judgment imposed. So I would spend
Mhm.
hours or maybe minutes or whatever. I would be stretching, I would be meditating, I would be doing breath work, and I would be doing what I love. And then I like boost my energy up. And then next moment I get in the car and I let's say I judge somebody for driving, and 10 minutes later I get to my destination and I'm back where I started or even lower on energy.
mm,
So it's like
Mhm.
all that work just all nullified by the judgment. So I just wanted to point the light onto how judgment, not only judgment, but also doubt and fear, of course, because the judgment comes from the fear, is how dangerous it is really for our evolution, really, in some sense. So,
mm.
Mhm.
all right, I'm gonna give some
Yeah.
little floor
Yeah.
to Tammy, and I know she has some questions for
Mhm.
you as well. So go for it, Tammy.
Yeah, I love what you said, and I love the example that you used. I use that too in traffic. I think, are they, maybe they just got a call that somebody's child is hurt. And so that it immediately takes me out of my like anger, and then I sit back.
Mm,
And with judgment too, I think it's a beautiful way. It points us, just like anything, it points us to awareness of that in ourselves. And so I try to consciously every time, okay, if we look like, oh, I just judged that person. And if you pause for a minute and say, okay, where is that in me? Because if it wasn't there, we wouldn't even see it out there if it wasn't in here, because we don't see anything out there that it's not in here already. Um, so yeah, I love that. I love that. I would love to know like practices that you use. Like, do you have things in place that you do specifically and then pass on to clients, like practices or tools and things like that you pass on?
Yeah, I have a few methodologies that I like to use in my practice, in my coaching practice,
Mm-hmm.
and mostly as from an engineering standpoint, I deal with frameworks. I deal with
Mm-hmm.
ways to kind of hold information, so to speak. And one of those ways is it's called the theory of holistic perspective. And in it, you can look at judgment as part of, one of four ways we can kind of use our awareness. And it's called like
Mm-hmm.
an evaluative awareness, where we're
Okay.
evaluating, saying, is it good, is it bad, or whatever. And this is a function of the mind. It's not not something to necessarily get rid of altogether. It's useful in, okay, fire is hot. That's what that means, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to forget about it, because then you'll just keep putting your hand on the stove, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
so that's what the kind of mind normally does. It's defining things and like with causality awareness, and then it's evaluating things in I guess it's not evaluative awareness. I call it semantic awareness or full-minded awareness. Basically, just
mm,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about the mind. And
Okay.
so what I try to do, or what I do with my practice, is I guide people through what they're going through, and then we look at those two types of awareness, coupled with the other two types that I haven't spoken to yet, and we sort of try to hold things in like the maximum amount of paradoxical space that you can kind of hold them. Or I shift
Okay.
people's perspective around using
Mm-hmm.
questions and guidance and things like that, so that they will discover those insights in themselves, like you were saying, and so they can
Mm-hmm.
actually start to see that, okay, what they're judging in others has been in them. And you can even go, and there's other modalities that do similar things, of course, with, say, where in your past have you displayed that exact same thing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then we start talking about the past and how it's not like a reality, so to speak. It's the
Mm-hmm.
way that we think about things. And
Yeah.
then you get into, okay, well, then that means that what I had actually done is here, it's still with me in the present, and I can
Mm-hmm.
compare the present now with me to the present that I'm seeing,
Mm-hmm.
or that I just saw, or whatever. And yeah, to me, I feel like that's like one big aspect for me as far as like dissolving judgment. It really comes to the unity, right? The unitive force that's
Uh,
connecting us all, right? When you realize that that's the
mm,
kind of underlying the net that's been holding you in your entire life,
mhm,
you can more easily let go of some of these things and realize that, okay, well, that's
mhm.
not the best
Right.
use of energy, as Mark, spoke to.
Mm-hmm.
You get all worked up, and then you're draining your own energy. You're
Yeah.
depleting your own batteries. And so
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like running on a treadmill and not getting anywhere. Yeah. You're exuding all this energy. It's like, oh, but I work so hard, but I'm nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and that makes a lot of sense. And I would probably term it, it's probably similar to what I call self inquiry.
Mhm.
But what I'm receiving from what you're saying is it's revealing, where something is sourced, helping us find our why, the why of the source of, okay, where is it coming from? Where is it within us? There's it's coming from. And as soon as you know that, then you can see it and touch it and know it, and then therefore change it.
Right.
That's beautiful. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for I love the way that you appeal to people who are a lot more logical about the world. And because there's a lot of us that gets, kind of like, the wind blows us off to like La La Land with the love and acceptation, acceptance and authenticity and curiosity. And sure, we can use all that stuff. But for most men's mind, especially, I feel there is a lot of this inner resistance to stuff like that. And so if you can just like put it in lay terms in sense that, yeah, this is logical. Check it out. This plus this equals this. Simple, yeah?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. You know? So it's like the man's mind is very like straightforward, food, hunt, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and then
So,
you bring a woman in and it's like, woof,
yeah,
yeah.
it's like,
Then things get gray and there's no more black and white and they get gray and purple and green and like, oh my God. Like, yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And men is like, let's go get a beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
So I love that that's what you do in
Hmm.
that sense is like and I love also again the moniker the ego engineer because for a lot of the people who are out there that is great catch to become curious about this work and the work that you're doing and the work that we're doing here also is
Hmm.
so important to allow people to really tune into their own being their own self in a sense of like their soul, right? And so I will go to briefly that phrase that we use oftentimes that what we resist persist.
Hmm.
I would say that what we pay attention to or what we focus on persists. Not even just what we resist. Like wherever we put our attention is where we are going to put our energy. So this is again, it's like what you put energy on is what's going to grow. And
Exactly.
so, for that matter, if I'm putting awareness on, like, let me see how I can get rid of judgment. Let me see if I can get rid of my fears. Let me see if I can get rid of, no, no, no. Just like, bring out the
Hmm.
love in
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
and focus on that, And I know that there's a lot of the pushback on that, I think, in the men's world, especially, where it's like, okay, yeah, give me a problem to solve, right?
Hmm.
And so it is actually way easier than we think. And I was just thinking the other day that I'm sure somebody said this before, but that love feels invisible in the presence of judgment.
Mm.
But to be present with the
Hmm.
awareness of judgment has the potential to reveal love. And so,
Hmm.
just being in that space of allowing to be present is really where I want to take any of this conversation towards. Because as I love and appreciate the work that you do, and it is greatly important and very needed. I am excited that you have this, that you started with the
Hmm.
coaching, based off of Peter Crow's teachings. And is there something that comes to mind to you as I'm speaking through this that you could
Yes.
share?
Yes, I can. In fact, beautifully done because, that ties right into, I mentioned that there was like four different awareness types that I like
Yes.
to introduce. And, the first two, causality and semantic or evaluative or whatever, they take place in past and future, which is created by the mind. The
Hmm.
other two actually take place right now.
Yeah.
And so that's the presence piece that we're kind of talking about. And the first one is actually called witnessing awareness. So it's the witnessing of what's happening right now. And then the other one is called open awareness, which is the pure possibility of everything that is happening right now that you haven't even grasped. It's everything that is happening, not, and could happen and did happen. It's a nebulous concept, so it's not
Hmm.
something that I get into a lot, but but really it starts with what you're talking about, the presence and the presence in that witnessing awareness. And this is what we've been talking about the whole time in
Hmm.
that we are doing the best we can within the limits of our awareness. And that's the awareness in this framing is the sitting with what is, accepting, being present to it. And then that's how you can notice the judgments, like you were saying, in the presence of then you can reveal the love because you're like,
Hmm.
oh, I'm judging, whatever.
Hmm.
that's just like kind of the first step. Getting that awareness, getting that grasp on what's actually kind of happening. And then we move into, practice, and then we get into mastery, and that's
Hmm.
how we're can really expand.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. I had jotted something down as I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about the awareness and the shifts that happen internally. And what came through me was internal shifts lead to intuitive guidance externally within all of life and relationships. So the higher our awareness and the more willing we are to be aware of the shifts that are happening, that's the guide that points. So it's like puzzle pieces coming into place, but it's just so beautiful when the awareness opens up, and there's so many different ways as you're displaying to approach this, to look at it. Like it's never it's limitless. It's just in the ways and that we can even become aware and look at things. Like it's massive, you know. What
Yeah.
made you, I'm curious, like when you decided to go into the coaching, like and really thought that was it? Was there something that took place and happened and you said, yeah, I'm done with this. I'm moving into this. And like, was there a big thing that happened that caused the merge?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, so long story short, I became aware of misalignment in the career
Mm,
choices that I had curated for myself.
mhm,
And I entered a transformational sabbatical at the beginning of this year
mhm,
and enrolled in some classes, began putting into practice a lot of the things I had been studying in the
mhm,
non-duality space. And in that, sort of classes and teachings that I
mhm,
was sort of going through, I got to witness the power of coaching
mm,
someone one on one to just completely just unlock the
mm,
the potential that they have and to free them up from the stuck patterns, from the stuck
mhm,
loops of, oh, just gonna go and keep doing the same thing because of,
yeah,
usually, scarcity or, some other constraint that's been,
mhm,
kind of locking them in place. And when I witnessed it firsthand, I was like, wow, this is so powerful. And I began to apply the thing to myself. I mean, my first coaching client was myself, getting
mhm,
through and finding, some of those gaps and some of the things that I had been holding on to and that
mhm,
were making me who I was for whatever reason I was choosing to be that way. And
yeah,
so, yeah, like I said, we're letting go. And
mhm,
that's kind of where the freedom kind of lies, is in letting go. I think somebody said Maharaji said this.
mhm,
And it's
mhm,
it's the real letting go that we're talking about here. And
yeah.
so that's kind of the reason that I got into coaching, and now I have my own slew of coaches. So I'm deepening my own work at the same time that
Yeah.
I'm working with my own clients.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful upward spiral.
Yeah. 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 That's beautiful.
As my friend
Mm.
Tammy likes to say, it's up leveling.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right. Love it.
I just want to reflect back to you that it's everything that you just said and shared. It's such validation to who you are, right? Because of your whys, and moving forward, you're doing it because of the way that you felt when you were a part of somebody else's transformation. And I love hearing that, and I want to point that out because that's just it's just so important and so valuable, and it's needed because you're coming from your own and from your place of your own heart, and it shows, it radiates out from you. So I just wanted to point that out. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you for pointing that out. That's lovely
Mm,
because again, it is every time we
mhm,
want to learn something new, if we start to focus on something or someone else out there externally, basically, we're going to
mm.
completely miss the target. And
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
think many people have done it. I have done it in my life too. The only true felt success that I've had in my life is that when I pointed the flashlight onto me, Like, how do I behave? Why is this particular person triggering something within me? It's not that they're triggering me about something, it's that I'm getting triggered by something they do externally that is within me that minds, that
Mm-hmm.
I feel unsafe around, basically. So that's and I love again, so that you mentioned the word self-application, and so applying this to yourself is like that's how we learn. That's how we, like Tammy says, up
Mm-hmm.
level
Mm-hmm.
our lives, and it's
Yeah.
just that's so beautiful. And
Mm-hmm.
also love your when you say transformational sabbatical, not just a sabbatical,
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
a transformational sabbatical.
There was an intention behind the sabbatical.
That's that's amazing. I mean, this is like where most of us don't take the time to
Mm-hmm.
actually like evaluate the life that we have. And I love Tammy's question that led to this, basically the revelation of this for you to tell us about. This wasn't it for you anymore, and so you were looking like, well, what do I do next? And this
Yeah.
guy comes up, and so the rest is history. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
there was
beautiful, beautiful.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where would you say your dedication to this quote of yours that you keep using in our book club, where does the dedication come from? What do you feel like drives that within you?
Well, I would say that from my own experience, I've dealt with a lot of judgment in my life. And it's me judging others and me judging myself. And having this quote, like I said, like a sword, but I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
explain it a little bit more like maybe not a sword. So it's as we go through our lives and we stay in this exploratory energy, you can imagine like that we have like little explorer hats on and we're going in the jungle, and we're kind of figuring things out. And as you do things, you develop these patterns or loops, these trails that you've kind of beaten down. Now the brush is still growing, right? It can still get into the trail, but you keep going the same trail and you're kind of be fine. Now to make a conscious choice to take a new path, there's going to be bush in the way. There's going to be stuff, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the way I like to see these, kind of quotes and these frameworks that I use is that they're, the tools to help us navigate through. Some of them could be like a map, and this quote that I use it just to like as a big machete to just cut down vines and stuff in my way. It's like nope, nope. This person's doing the best they can, limits of their awareness, so there's no reason for me to waste any energy on that. I want to help them, guide them, if they're asking, for those types of services. Yeah, more than happy to expand on the knowledge that I have, that background in doing that practical application, because that's what, I was in chemical engineering, and that's the practical application of the science of chemistry. it, and now
Mm-hmm.
eco engineering, I like to say, is the practical application of the science of consciousness. So it's a consciousness based science that we can apply in our lives to up level, up level not just
Ah.
ourselves, but
Mm-hmm.
what I'm really passionate about is societal change and uplifting everyone. All it's the metaphor of the rising tide lifts all boats or something.
Yep.
But in this case, it's like the water from the rising tides are coming from the boats, and we're just paling it out of the boats and putting it in the water. I don't know. It's it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's coming up because of the things that we are putting out, and that what we're paling out is the love that we can feel inside of ourselves. And so the
Mm-hmm.
more that we give love and receive love and remain in this energy of unity, then I mean judgment. I mean nobody's got time for that stuff. Like we're we're doing other stuff. So that's I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the kind of the way that I see it.
Mm. I love that. Yeah. Well, when you're love, you don't see it. Judgment doesn't. You don't even know what it is. You wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
And it's like the more awareness that we have of resistance points, the more those points serve as guides to us. We can be aware of something negative, so we can be aware of oh, wow, I was really judgmental there. Wow, I just like, even if you didn't say anything, like, say driving, and you're like, somebody pulls out and you have a reaction, and you're in the car by yourself, nobody hears you, but you're having a reaction and cursing and like, whatever. Like, when you notice that, when you bring love into the awareness of it, even if it's you as the perpetrator of the judgment, it dissolves it. So the focus on it and loving awareness on anything, it's pliable. It'll turn it into more of the love that you put on it. Yeah.
Yeah. It transmutes.
Yeah. It's there's so much less to do than we think, that we don't have to work so hard. Like, we're only working hard when we're trying to change something and we're involved in something that's none of our business to do. That's my experience anyway. Like, the only time that I'm ever frustrated or like uptight is when I'm involved in something that's not mine. Because if it's mine, then it would be, I would be able to apply love to it and it would transform. The only time things don't work out is when you're trying to do something that isn't yours to be in. And so if we stop right there and sort of turn around and with awareness and face it, we're done. We don't have to work so hard.
What a great insight. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. So, Matthew Sean, you spoke a little bit to the self-judgment really is initiated really first before we even judge like someone else or external some circumstances or whatever else. So in your experience with what have you found, is this something that you would be willing to share that you have noticed for yourself where you realized that you were judging someone for something and that was the judgment that you actually had about for yourself that you were unaware of?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, I mean, this happened, not too long ago where, well, actually, the story starts like 7 or 8 years ago. And it happened with something that's so innocuous, so frivolous. I won't even get into the details, but basically, my mother and I were estranged for the past like 7 years, and it came down to the judgment that I felt towards her about some things that had happened earlier in our relationship, in our mother-son relationship. And what I realized was it was that judgment that I was holding on to that was precipitating this story of animosity or of being right about something, right? Just basically, oh, okay, there was judgment and criticism, from me to her, from her to me, and it was just like this nonsense of, well, now I'll say, nonsense. It was a very real thing for me at the time. And, a few months ago, I decided, okay, like I said, nobody's got time for that anymore. This is my mother, and it's when you look back on your life and you can start to see that all of the things that had happened so that you could be who you are today. This sort of seeing the Matrix moment where you're like looking at the code, and then a lot of that code obviously would have my mother in it because my body is here because it came out of her body, right? So I'm like, this is this is an important person in my life, and I think that she hasn't even met, at the time she hadn't even met my youngest daughter because we were estranged for her whole life and for my daughter's life. And yeah, I mean, basically what kind of came out of this is that being able to let go of that judgment and to let into love. I was able to, I flew her across country to come and see me where I live and meet, our family. And we got to, rekindle, respark, whatever words you want to kind of use, our own relationship. And the beautiful thing about this was that for me, it provided even more empirical just evidence of this application of love to our lives, wherein on the plane ride over, she had struck up a conversation with somebody and was telling them about, oh, well, my son's flying me out and we've been estranged for a long time and I don't really know how it's going to go and, all this kind of stuff. And it turned out that the person that she was sitting next to was somehow connected with a professional sports team here in the city that I live. And then what came out of that was like, okay, now I have like VIP tickets to go to this game with, and so now like, okay, well, this is great. Like, not saying that this is going to happen all the time, but I mean, it's like just the love that you kind of put out,
Mm-hmm.
it comes back to you in these unexpected ways. And so since then, I've just been loving everything, seeing just all of the things that are going to come out of it. And it doesn't have to be for me. That's not even the point. Like I didn't even particularly, like sports or anything like that, but it doesn't matter because it's that expression of love, of oneness, of unity that really kind of sparks that sense in me.
The connection to consciousness, to
Yes.
everyone, really, to everything, not just everyone, but everything
Hmm.
in life. Yeah. Nothing like the ego engineer to speak of love. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you for that. Really appreciate that. Tammy, do you have something yet to that?
Yeah. Well, it's just more validation. You said it. It's when you are consciously choosing to be in the state of love within your being and to be love, then anything that you bring your awareness into transforms to that. It can't happen it can't be any other way. And when we do that, the outcomes, they're beyond, I hate to use all the cliche, beyond our wildest dreams, but they are like they're when love is the present and we're looking through that lens and we are choosing that as the foundational element of everything, we're not even capable of thinking of a highest manifestation of what's going to come. Like
Yeah.
we can't even touch it. It's bigger than anything we could even touch with our mind. And so if we just stay in that, like we don't even have to go to the trouble to sit down and think about what we want to manifest, or sometimes we can get caught in easily into the how things are going to turn out and okay, well, this is how I want it to play out, so let me work towards that. The working towards it is being the essence of love,
Mhm.
and then choosing to live outwardly from that so that anything that you touch is it like that's it's just how it is, and it's so simple. We say this all the time, but we think that we need to, we work harder, push and stuff. But that is just so beautiful with your mom. I mean, what could be more bigger than that is, the relationship with a mother. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. The
Yeah.
big kudos to you for initiating
Yeah.
that. And, to feel estranged from our family member and especially from the mom.
Hmm.
It's one of the hardest things that our soul will feel. Truly,
Yeah.
like the feeling of this emptiness within is oftentimes just like debilitating. So to
Hmm.
resolve that, it's almost like plugging a big hole in the boat that keeps sinking just because this one thing is just like out of whack or there's a big
Hmm.
hole.
Yeah.
So that's awesome, man. That's thank you for sharing that. Really
Hmm.
appreciate that. All right, Tamara, do you have any follow-up
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah. Like we talk about
Ah,
finding it and the transformation, the shift happening, right? And then it's the maintaining it, and the practices that we do to maintain. Like we have the practices to shift into the place of receiving the transformations, and the shifts happen with our families and our jobs and whatever happens. And then from there, what happens, or what tools do you use, or what do you work with your coaching clients, like in terms of maintaining it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Tammy.
Mm.
As far as tools that I use for maintaining, um, what I call in my practice entrainment. So
Ah,
it's the deliberate practice portion of, kind of
okay.
after we have these awarenesses, after we have
Mhm.
the understanding, the knowing, we get a conviction and then turns into like determination. And then what we wanted to do then is that's when we put in these practices. We put the practices in place. For me, I do, grounding
Mhm.
practices every day,
Mm.
and I do Shinrin Yoku, which is like a forest bathing exercise.
Mm.
I'm blessed to live in a place that's like very close to some trees, and so I go out there and hang out with them. And also, I'm a heart math certified coach. And so there's a lot of these heart math techniques that for my clients, I'll kind of bring those in because they're very simple techniques and you can kind of do them at any point during the day with your eyes open, eyes closed. And it's good for a busy life, where people are still um, in the thick of it, right? Not
Mhm.
as if we're not in the thick of it, but
Yep.
you're on a subway and you're feeling certain things come up, and
Hmm.
you can implement one of these techniques to rebalance your nervous system, basically, to
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
as the as I'm sure like you guys are aware, and maybe your audience, that the mind body spectrum
Hmm.
continuum, it's not as well defined as you may have been led to believe. And so,
Hmm.
the things that are happening in the mind, they normally, they can cascade into the body. But then on the flip side, we can activate certain things in our body that will elicit a higher potentiality for things that are coming out in our mind, I would say.
Mm.
So
Okay.
this is why nervous system regulation is part of my offering, and I guide people through that as well because yeah,
Hmm.
it's a powerful tool to kind of lock it in, sort of just be like, okay,
Yeah.
this is what you're doing now.
Hmm.
It's like if you think about the way that, well, anything really operates, but we'll talk about like the body, and it's like, okay, do you ever notice, going to the bathroom around a certain time of day? I mean, you're eating around a certain time of day, and like your body is getting
Hmm.
used to, it doesn't know it's doing the best it can with the limits of its awareness, but it doesn't know, all of the things that are happening out, in the
Yeah.
3D space. And so it's
Hmm.
like, okay, well, it's been so long and the hormone levels are at this point, so now it's like let's activate this and try to get some hunger, or the lights are going down, or da 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 da, and then it's time to sleep.
Mm.
So same sort of thing. We can put in place these nervous system regulatory practices that
Hmm.
will kind of elicit those responses, and help us kind of maintain an equanimous state, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's so important. That's why I asked because it can be so easy to have the transformation, like whether it's a retreat or you work with a new coach and you're like lit up and you're on fire, right? And then it can trickle away rather quickly. And I always say that, the closer you stay, the practices and the things that we do on a regular basis, when you do that, you don't get so far away. So it's not as far to travel when you get into a jam or a crisis, and like, oh, okay, now I have to go find my peace again. Now I have to go find whatever it is that worked. But if you maintain it through practices and working with someone such as yourself, you, you don't ever lose that. You stay that, like your tank stays full because you
Yeah.
keep filling it up.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that. This
Yeah.
is amazing. So, one of the
Good.
things that captured my attention there was that putting things in practice, obviously, is why we're here. Obviously, again, you can have all sorts of concept about really anything, and then
Mhm.
if you don't actually practice things, if you don't create a new habit, none of that sticks, right? And again, the
Mhm.
habit might be just simple as I pay attention to what I'm grateful for. I
Mhm.
just pay attention to
Mhm.
that. When I feel like, especially like when you're in a kind of a midst of like difficulties, okay, so say thank you. It's like as hard as it may feel to say thank you, what can you say thank you for? And
Mhm.
just stick to that. And just stick to that. Even one thing, like thank you for I have a home. I don't have to be out on the
Mhm.
elements. I'm grateful that I have a home. It's nice to be here, and then just build on that. It's like, or you feel grateful because you're home, you're dry, you're not wet, you're not in the wind. Basically, you're not freezing, you're not hot, etc. Right? So you're feeling like you have comfort. that comforting feeling starts bringing that feeling of love, just being
Mm.
content, right? So the contentment comes and happens to start feeling more as obviously gratitude starts feeling as love. So creating the habits is like the most important part of, I think, really any coaching. Yet the clients, the people, the whoever are have the hardest time with the practice
Mm.
because it feels like it's something else I have to do.
Mm.
Oftentimes, anyway. So how do you get around that with people, if that was your experience before, in sense of like, is there some sort of a maybe motivating something that you say often, or
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm,
I could get into that. So basically, yeah, I love the way you phrase that. It's like, okay, this is just one more thing that I have to do.
mhm,
Yeah.
Okay, so to me, it comes down to really, what are you committed to doing? What are you committed to changing? What are your commitments? What are you devoted to?
yeah,
That's why it's not a practice, it's a deliberate practice. So with my clients, we set up agreements. And we don't
Mhm.
I don't do a lot of expectations anymore because they've proven they've proven to be not so great, right? Like, you got a bunch of expectations, who knows what's going to
Yeah.
happen. But
Mhm.
agreements, it's like, okay, well, we're going to agree to meet at this certain time. We're going to agree to, you know, you're going to do some journaling prompts and you're going to send them back or, whatever. So putting the agreements in place, it really kind of speaks to what we're all sort of doing all the time. There's agreements said and, spoken and unspoken agreements
Mhm.
between every, living thing, I guess, that we can encounter. The point is that, that's where I kind of like to reside. The agreements, commitments, and what you're focused on. You don't have to do the practices. You don't have to do it all. It's up to you. That's
Mhm.
the best part. You are freedom. You can do what you wish. But, if you're committed to making a change, there's going to be some amount of effort, some amount of jungle clearing, that you are going to want to devote into. Otherwise, you're just going to go back to the path that's already, been cleared off and, beaten and you're good to
Mhm.
go. Right. So it comes down to energy efficiency, right? It's kind of like the water running down a hill.
Mhm.
And then if you want to, it's going to go in the way that it's going to go. And if you want it to go a different way, there's something that you got to kind of put into place to kind of redirect. And so building that structure or whatever, the canals or something, I'm not a civil engineer, so I don't know a lot about any of that. But
Yeah.
I guess maybe I could talking about chemical reactions, but that also is not going to be the same sort of metaphor. Well, when you got this type of chemical, yeah. So anyway, the point is that
Mhm.
there's an effort, and that's what I like to bring my clients back into is the fact that their efforts are what is determining the outcomes that they're seeking. So if they're
Mhm.
seeking the outcomes that they want to have in their life, that they're thinking, I want to create this. This is something that's important to me. This is something that is going to make the world a better place, and I'm committed to it. Great, because those are the types
Mhm.
of clients that um, I love coaching, and that are out there making a difference, and they're committed to it, or they're not. That's up
Mhm.
to them. But usually after talking to me, they get pretty committed.
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. The commitment is super important. Again and again, I love that you create an agreement because it's agreement for them to them, and the commitment comes out of that, and either you're in or you're not, right?
Yeah, I love that. I love that as well because yeah, it's like, "Oh, I don't have time." I'll say, one that I use a lot is set the alarm on your phone every hour and take a minute, once an hour, 1 minute, and say, "Thank you, I love you." Keep it
Mhm.
simple and just then don't even make it specific. "Thank you, I love you." Just say the words. The words will go wherever they need to go, right? Because that's your intention. It's like just say it and let it out there. Who doesn't have a minute every hour? Oh, well, I work in an office and go to the restroom and stand there for a minute. Like you don't have to do anything out loud. Like you can sit at your desk and just sit there for a minute and say it to yourself. And so as with all things, start small and and stuff. But yes, I love the way you pointed out the agreements. Yeah, it's those, and like Marek said, the agreements with self. Like that's an act of self-love, and the more that we love ourselves, then the easier it becomes to do loving things, and we're that way outward, and so on and so on. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that with the agreements. Yeah, that's amazing. I love it.
So fun, you guys.
Mhm.
Um, One of the other things I wanted to briefly touch on is the awareness around now that we are transitioning from the judgment and dissolving it into love. The awareness around, like you pointed out, you have the practice of grounding, and you go to your basically you have trees close by, and you can just go there.
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone out there, and obviously even you guys, just to become aware of how the larger the tree, the larger the field of the tree. And so if you think about it in the sense of a human being, like if you have your arms spread out to the sides and you create a sphere around yourself, that's about the size of your own bubble, your electromagnetic or energy field. And so the trees have the same thing. So the larger the tree, the bigger the field. More of the trees, more of the energy. Now,
Mm-hmm.
can you just capture that real briefly in your mind? So many people, so much energy. Now that's also variant with people, because some people are, feeling not so good. Some people are really feeling pretty good. And so it's like, but with the trees, they just are, and they're just emanating constantly the amount of energy. So the grounding practice that you have is out of the world. I just want to say that because it's awesome. To even if you don't have many trees in your surrounding, get some. At the very least, go and stand on the ground outside with your bare feet to ground
Mm,
yourself a little bit. One of the practices that I do every morning is that just walk out on the grass or, ground with your bare feet, just to connect the negative ions of the earth,
mhm,
grounding any kind of energy that you have maybe processed via dreams or the night before that was happening in your psyche, etc. That all can ground through the touch. So yeah, beautiful practice. I am
mm.
jealous that you have such a big tree garden, really tree
Yeah,
garden in the
tree garden.
backyard, right? The back of your house. All right. Is there
Mm,
anything else that you want to share with us?
Yes, actually, just
Go for it.
for, as a thank you to your audience and to you guys, I have just a small, offering, just a free, a couple of journaling prompts that I think
mm,
will kind of help break people out of their stuck loops.
Mm,
And
thank you.
mm,
it's an audit. It's something. It's like what Tammy was saying. It's self inquiry. You're looking at yourself. You're trying to see, and so a lot of times, you may not be able to see it. It takes a coach or someone else as a close friend or anybody to very close friend maybe to
mm,
to sort of discover those blind spots. But I'm kind of offering this as a way to kind of rewire your internal operating system and kind of get you onto that first step. So yeah,
mm.
you can put the link in
Awesome.
the show notes below, but it's basically
Awesome.
going to be Matthew Sean Alexander
Yep.
/audit.
Mm,
And I will definitely put all the links of your how people reach you
mm,
Yes.
to down into the description. So if anybody's curious, just follow the links below in the description.
mm. Thank you. That's
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful,
Thank you
Mark.
for
Thank
offering
you.
that. Really appreciate that. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to checking it out
Hmm.
myself.
And another thing I just wanted to say is, how grateful I am to Mark and Tammy for putting together this space. This, awake and aware podcast is just a beacon of hope, a beacon of light, really, out into the world, and just to be able to like share those practices with your audience, from a place that I know personally, you guys are, the at the top of your game, so to speak, in this work. And as a newbie myself, it's just so great to come in here and just
Mm,
be in your guys' presence. So yeah, I love both of you guys and wish you the most success that you could possibly have in all
mm,
of your endeavors, including,
mm.
this one that we're on right now.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Wow.
Well, the feeling is mutual. I mean, you just radiate. I can't look at you without smiling. Like, I can't. I don't think it's possible. Like, I don't think I could do it. I would fail. Yeah, I feel just as blessed and grateful for you and your presence. Truly, truly.
And once again, Thank you so much for being here, Matthew Sean. It was such a pleasure having your just sweet spirit join us. It's the sweet
Yeah.
spirit in a engineering body.
Yeah, yeah,
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. So
Beautiful.
really.
Yes.
And thank you again so much for joining us for today's Awake and Aware podcast. If you have enjoyed this session, please subscribe, like us, follow us, and hit that bell so you're notified of our next podcast episodes. Let us know in the comments what has inspired you, what might have even helped you reframe some of the thinking and or acting that you have had in your life. Is there something that we speak about bring you back to awareness about something you have not noticed before? And if you're curious about some of the other practices that Matthew Sean does, we are going to have a part 2 with him, and we'll look forward to seeing you there as well. In the meantime, take good care of you, stay awake, stay aware, be there for yourself, be present with your life, and most of all, let that love shine out of you. Be it judgment, be it fear, be it doubt, whatever may come over you. Pause, take a breath or 10, and resume again. Just feel into the essence that you are. You matter. Take care.